Good morning and welcome to the May 23rd, 2018 YourLIVINGBrand.live show. My name is Ben Baker and my company is Your Brand Marketing. Now, what do we do? Now, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, we consult, we do workshops, and we do keynotes on brand message, market vision, and value. Now, what does that mean? Now, to our customers, that means we tell their story. We help them engage their audience in a meaningful way. We help them understand what makes them different, what makes them unique, what makes them not a commodity, and why should people care about them, and why people should do business with them. And that's what this show is all about. This show is all about how do businesses differentiate themselves? How do they make themselves unique? How do they make themselves understood in a crowded marketplace? And how do they allow people to understand that, you know what, they're valuable? Now, this week, we have Anthony Taylor on board. Anthony has a company called SME Strategy, and what do? They do business strategy for small and medium enterprises. I'm going to let Anthony talk about what he does. Sit back, enjoy the show, and I'll be back after
Anthony, thank you very much for being on the show. I really appreciate you taking the time.
Well, it's my pleasure, Ben. It's going to be awesome.
Oh, you know what? It's always great talking to you. And it says, Anthony and I are in a mastermind group together, and we meet on a monthly basis. And it's great because it's almost like having your own board of directors. It's like having people that are just going to sit there and go completely honestly, what do you really mean by that? Like, what were you thinking? Have you thought of it this way? Have you looked at it a different way? And having somebody like Anthony, who is all about strategy, part of that group, really adds value. So let's get into it, Anthony. Why don't we let people know who you are, what you do, why you do it, who you do it for, and why these people find you valuable. So tell me your story. Tell me the story of you and SME Strategy.
Cool. Okay. So first of all, thank you for having me on the show. I'm really looking forward to it. And yeah, we do have some fun mornings talking about this, that, and the other, and getting an opportunity to shoot straight with each other. So yeah, so my name's Anthony Taylor. I am the managing partner of a strategy consulting firm, a management consulting firm called SME Strategy. And what we do is we help organizations, mostly small to medium-sized businesses, create their strategic plans.
Right.
My background is as an entrepreneur. So I did the typical lemonade stand thing. I had 2 web startups, owned a coffee shop. I put on rock concerts. I had an ESL school. And then now I facilitate strategy. And that's because my business partner ripped me off early in my younger days. And then now what I do is help organizations with the things that they don't see waiting around the corner. And really that's like the essence of strategy. And why teams work with us at SME Strategy and work with me as a facilitator is because I come in as an outside person. So just like what we were talking about with the board of directors, I come in as a unbiased person. We lead the meeting, we keep it focused, and we help them create like a structure for their strategic plan and help them get aligned. So making sure that their strategy is aligned, their team is aligned, their vision and their strategy is aligned, and then the rest of the organization is aligned. So we call it aligned strategy development. And I'm the author of 2 books as well, one on entrepreneurship, one on strategy.
And we'll get into that. We'll definitely get into your books because, writing one book is a lot of work. Hey, I'm in the middle of editing my first book, but when you've put 2 books out there, that's an accomplishment. But let's go back a little bit. I mean, because the value that I know that you bring to the table is the fact that you have a history. The fact that you've had a partner that, as you said, ripped you off. You've had the good, the bad, and the ugly. And it's people that have actually been in the trenches, that have had both success and failure, that probably allow you to be better. Having somebody on your side who's been down that rabbit hole, somebody who's been, buried up to their chest in concrete and figured a way out, is a far better partner for you and a far better person to have in your corner than somebody who's just had a rosy life. So let's get into that. Tell me a little bit more about how you've used your past experiences to help make your customers better today.
Okay, I got that. Yeah, I mean, I think what's really unique about me in my work, in my professional life, having run a lot of businesses, having consulted on a lot of businesses, and having like worked on nonprofits, and even the work that I did, like I was a waiter for like in my past career, and you just see so much different stuff. And what I think is really valuable out of that is the perspective.
Right.
That you don't just show up, and I mean, there's nothing wrong with working for one career for 40 years, but because you see so many different iterations of a situation, it's like, oh, I've been here before. And it's not necessarily to say that that problem is the same. It's that, you know, you have that tacit experience of, okay, you know, I know what it's like when you have a product model and there's no product market fit, or, you know, you're dealing with a situation where your staff is getting ready to leave. It's just, you've been in a lot of situations, so you can bring that. So I don't know if there's a specific question in there, but it really does come to, I've seen something like this, and having that outside perspective that you can add that on, it's, oh, I've had that experience, I've had that experience, I've had that experience. And it really cumulatively makes a really smart group of people. So, yeah. Can you?
No, absolutely. I mean, that was where I'm getting at. This is the fact that it allows you, by having a variety of different experiences, by having a variety of different, you know, situations you've been in, it allows you to more quickly assess the situation, sit there and say, okay, I've never been down this hole before, but I've been down one similar. And this is how I got out of it. And be able to take all that experience and be able to bring it forward in a way that's valuable for your clients and help them move forward quickly and more efficiently based on you utilizing the experience that you've gained through mistakes that you've had in the past. Because, you know, everybody sits there and goes, oh, I was a success at this, I was a success at that. Yeah, we've all had our successes. But what we learn from is our failures. Yeah. And what we learned from is watching other people fail and sit there going, okay, what did happen? What went wrong? How do we fix this moving forward? So tell me a specific situation where, you know, something from your past, something, you know, bad happened in your past, and you were able to use that to help somebody else succeed moving forward.
Well, there's an example that comes to mind that was fairly recent, but we talked about that in our last mastermind group. I think it helped me, but I think it also helped the client as well. So just a short background is, you know, I was working with a client in an advisory capacity. So he brought me on to his team to support him with a project. And, you know, I've learned from my days as a project manager as well, you know, everything you have to plan it out. If you don't leave enough time to make stuff happen, it doesn't happen. So we started this project at the beginning of the year. A couple weeks go by, and, you know, we're taking stuff up on our side. We're like meeting our ends of the project, and then different parts of the project that are outside of our scope of what we can handle, or that our responsibility, start falling by the wayside. So instead of being green, we're starting to get into that yellow territory where this critical project that's happening in March and it has like a 1 week timeline, it needs to be done at this time. So stuff needs to be done.
Right.
And so we start getting, you know, 3, 4, 5 weeks, 6 weeks in. And at the end of the day, you know, had to sit down with a client and say, hey, you know what, this project is not going to work. And the reason that this project isn't going to work is because we don't have the supporting pieces in place. We can continue to do our work and our aspect of the project, but without these things, it's not going to help you be successful. So I guess I'll speak to the entrepreneurs in the room, is that you need to know when it's not going to work. And at the end of the day, like, my reputation is on the line for my client to be successful. I could take the money. Like, I could, and it was a good contract. I could take the money. I could be like, great. It's not my problem. But at the end of the day, if the client's not going to be successful, I'm not going to be successful, even if I get the money. So it's knowing when to, like, cut your losses and, like, kill the project on one side for the betterment of everybody. Like, you don't need to just launch because you said you were going to. There are times you got to know when to pull the plug there.
Right. So were you able to pivot and move the project to a different level or a different way, or was it just say, you know what, if it's got to happen at the end of March, if it's got an absolute hard deadline, better that we stop it now than move forward and all of a sudden disappoint a whole bunch of people?
Yeah, absolutely. What ended up happening was the project actually got, like, critically delayed on the client side, but the work that we did still set it up as, like, foundationally. Right. And so, you know, we built that. So when we look at strategy development, it really does come in stages. And so we had just set the project in stages so that it was still successful. The work was still valuable, and they can take up that project whenever they want. And that foundational piece is done. So instead of trying to do everything at one time, my direct thing would be do it in stages so that you can reassess as you move forward.
Sure. So you were able to give the client the advice to sit there and say, you know what, if you try to bite off everything right now, we're going to fail. However, if we can take this and compartmentalize it and be able to move forward in stages, you're still going to be able to salvage some part of it. And you're probably going to win, and you might even have a larger win in the long run. But at least you're going to be successful by delaying the project, where if you go ahead now, it's certainly going to be failure.
Yeah, absolutely. And then so from a strategy development side, I recommend to all the teams that we work with that instead of trying to do many things and doing them poorly, so it's spreading your resources out like peanut butter, really about focusing on the 2-3 things that are going to have the biggest impact to your organization at this point in time.
Right.
And so better do a few things really well than many things poorly.
Exactly.
And yeah, so that's sort of the approach I take to a lot of things.
So let's talk about, you use, a couple words, foundation and strategy. Foundation, I always look at foundation as where we are today. Are we on a solid ground? Mm. And, what do you do to assess? I mean, before you can move forward, you need to assess that whether the ground that the people they're on right now is either shaky or whether it's solid and ready to move forward. So how do you go about that with a customer to be able to have those conversations, to sit there and say, you know what, you need to do this, and this before we can start moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to make sure the context is clear. So I'm going to use the context of organizational strategy, working with leadership teams, and making sure that that is set up. So we do a few things. So when we're looking at assessing a current state, it's important to recognize that things are what they are.
Right.
It's not that they're good or bad, they just are. And we're not trying to assess whether they're good or bad. We're just trying to get what is so.
Yeah.
What is either
what's reality at this point in time?
Exactly. And then reality is also perceived reality. So if I think things are great and you think things are not so great, or somebody else thinks things are just totally terrible, for them that's real. And it's just about getting what that perception is. So we do a few things in the strategic planning. So when we're trying to get a team together to figure out where they want to go, which is what you were talking about, we do one-on-one surveys. So us as facilitators have conversations with the management team. And you can do this too. It's just about having a conversation.
Sure.
We do surveys. So we do one anonymous survey for the entire group so that people have 2 different outlets to share. And then we do, typical strategy stuff. We do a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threat, a SWOT analysis.
Right.
And then we do take a few other tools, but the SWOT is probably the best tool. And then
sure.
A pestle analysis to look at things outside of our organization. And ultimately that is the snapshot of where we're at.
Right.
Good, bad, ugly, whatever else. And then the last thing that I would recommend to anybody is have candid conversations. Don't be afraid to put the cards out on the table. Because if I'm embarrassed that my car doesn't have any gas, and I'm not going to tell anybody my car doesn't have any gas, but then we're stuck in the middle of the highway where there's no gas stations around, say, oh, well, I didn't want to tell you that my car was out of gas, but here we are. It's really, you have to have strength and have to have those honest conversations so that you can move forward as a group. It doesn't really help anybody.
Absolutely. I'm a big believer of, figure out where people are today, where they really are, what the line in the sand is today, and then figure out what people's goals are, and then work backwards from there. And that's the strategy work you do. That's the strategy work I do. But it's really important, you're right, to have those frank and honest conversations with clients, because a lot of people are afraid to. A lot of people are afraid to have those conversations going, can you afford this? Or, if I get you 1,000 new clients, can you support them? Mm-hmm. You have the processes in place to support those 1,000 new clients. And, unless you're willing as a strategist and as someone who's going to help people move the needle, move it forward, to have the conversations to understand what do these people think a win really looks like, you can't get them there. If you don't have a clear direction of where you're going, how do you know where to steer the ship?
That's perfect. So really that is, if we look at the strategy process, that is the second step. It's where are we now and where do we want to go? What does success look like? And it's important to recognize that, especially working in teams or, even if you're in a couple, is that different people have different versions of success and they're not necessarily different. They just, you need to get clear on what that is. So if I say, hey, Ben, let's go to Mexico. Okay. We're going to take our leadership retreat. We're going to go to Mexico. And, for you, Mexico might be Cancun. And for me, it might be some random village and you might want to take a plane there and I might want to hitchhike. Both going to Mexico. But if we don't actually have that clarifying question around what does success look like, and, what does it mean for us to be getting there happily? What is a win? We might be disappointed or worse.
You're going to be disappointed.
Yeah. Well, somebody is. Yeah. But you thought on the outset, if we're sitting at the airport and you're like, yeah, man, I'm so excited to go to Mexico. And we get there and say, oh, this is not what I agreed to. We say, well, you said Mexico. So really digging deep into those conversations and saying, okay, not just high level, what is a win, but what does it look like? How will I know I am there? And creating a vivid vision. And, that's what you do really, really well when it comes to your brand and your getting people to know what is their story.
Yeah. It's, and it's a process and it's taking the people through the process. So let's get into that. When you first meet with a client, what is the process that you work for? I mean, obviously you said you sit there and you figure out the foundation, but once you get to the strategic level and once you're getting in there, do you have a codified process that you actually put people through? Now, I don't want you to give away any state secrets. I don't want you to give away your secret sauce, but is there any specific things that you do, that you feel help you bring the process forward and make you valuable to your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. And just to be clear, and I appreciate that you don't want to give away my secret sauce. I literally give everything away.
Well, there we go.
To my website.
That's for you to give away, not for me to give away yours.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, really, everything. If you go to SMEstrategy.net, which is a website, we give away everything. Everything. And that's my secret sauce, is to give away everything because, I know what we bring to the table. But so taking a step back, my work, I work with nonprofits, I work with small businesses, I work with foreign government, really across the gamut. And the process of working together really looks like this. We hop on a call with somebody. It takes about 15 minutes to figure out where they want to go. We talk about our process. And then we do all that pre-work that we talked about. And really it's about getting in a room with the leadership team, the management team, and saying, okay, where are we now? Where do we want to go? What's going to get in our way? And what do we need to do to get there?
Right.
And it's really about having conversations within all of that. Life is a series of conversations. And here's my secret sauce here. And this, Ben, this is also for you, but this is for
you. Okay, well, I'm listening.
Okay. My secret sauce is everything is just made up. Everything's made up.
Okay.
The only reason I'm on this podcast today and we're chatting with you is because I made up that I'm a strategist. And you made up that you have a podcast. And
we both made it reality.
And you just both made it reality. So the question is when you look at your strategy and what you want to create, it's really what do you want to create? And then have conversations that are going to set you up to make that happen.
Right.
So when we do the 1 or 2 day strategy session, and then after that, it's really about setting that focus. Where do we want to go? And then keep realigning your team and your strategy, moving that forward. So it's really just about setting an intention about what success looks like, and then taking the steps necessary, quarter by quarter, week by week, day by day. They're going to move you forward. So, that's it. Just, it's all made up.
Right. Well, I tell people the difference between a dream and a plan, and a goal is the actual strategy that goes along with it. Mm-hmm. Everybody has a dream. Everybody says, I'd love to be able to walk on the moon. But there are people that actually figure out the steps by step by step by step by step, what it's going to take them to do to get that degree, to get their, become a pilot, to get themselves noticed by NASA, to get themselves into the astronaut program, to get themselves on that next, that next mission, either to the moon or Mars. Difference between that dream and actual reality is having the strategy of how you're going to get from A to B to C.
True. And if I can add on to that, is that while strategy, there's a famous quote that says, culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Right.
And it's that you could have the best strategy, but if you don't have like the intangibles and the people behind it, it won't move.
Yeah.
So what I share with people is that the benefit of the future vision has to be greater than the pain of changing.
Mm-hmm.
So the specific example, for me, I'm getting married in a couple weeks, or it will have been a couple weeks ago when the podcast is released. And, I got to hit the gym. I got to start like leaning down and looking good. And my fiance is in the same boat. But, for her, like the stakes are slightly higher because, I'm just
for her, the stress will take off those.
She's going to hit me up.
Every bride loses 10 pounds, based on the stress. Don't worry about
it. We have a stress-free wedding, which is pretty excellent. But
excellent.
The point is that, for me, giving up my beers and chocolates and whatever else, is maybe not as a motivating factor. And so it's really like, if you want your organization to go from 10 million to 13 million, it's what is the benefit of that 13 million? What does all of that mean, or 20 million, or whatever it is, compared to the changes that are going to have to get you there? What does that mean from a team aspect? What does that mean from an action planning aspect? What are you going to have to give up in pursuit of that? Because it's not just, I have a plan to do this. I have a plan to stop eating cookies and go to the gym. It's the future has to pull you to make that happen. Otherwise, it's just, then all you have is a plan on paper and like good intentions. And
you got to be able to communicate. Right? Having a plan is one thing. Being able to communicate the plan throughout the entire organization in an effective way, and be able to engage and motivate and and bring the team on board. You're right. It's culture. If you don't have your team on board, if you don't have your key clients on board, if you don't have your partners on board, through effective communication and everybody's aligned, no strategy is going to work.
Well, let me ask you, in your experience as an entrepreneur, and this is like being in the business community.
Sure.
Have you seen entrepreneurs that they had the plan, that they really wanted it?
Yes.
But at the end of the day, they just don't make their success happen.
It happens all the time. I mean, what they say, that 70% of SMEs fail in the first 3 years.
Yeah. So, I mean, is that because they don't have like a plan? And I would say, like, I've seen a lot of business plans, and I'm sure you have too.
Right.
It's, probably not a shortage of planning, maybe not a plan of action, but there's, something that's missing. And again, we won't get into the conversation about why businesses fail, but, just like looking at the people side of success. So
I personally think it's a combination of not having a realistic plan, having a pie in the sky plan, not having effective communication, and not having good clear objectives of where everybody is going, and having everybody aligned in the right direction. And I think there's a combination of those three things. There's also the fact that a lot of companies are underfunded, but that's a different story altogether. But I think that it's a combination of strategy, communication, and implementation. And if you can't, those three legs have to work together for the chair to not fall down. And I think it's a combination of what you and I do, and also having good implementation. And I think that if you can do those things together, you're going to have a successful company.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So we're getting tight on time, but I want to talk about your book. Let's talk. You got two books. Alignment is the new one, and I've forgotten what the book before that is.
It's called I Wish I Knew.
I Wish I Knew, which was a great title. And tell me a little, just a quick synopsis of both books, and who they're for, and what you wanted to tell people.
Cool. So, excuse me. I hope you edit that. So, I Wish I Knew was really all about the stories what I wish I knew when I was running my first business, and entrepreneurship lessons I learned the hard way, so you don't have to. And really about that is like anybody starting a business, anybody with a business existing, like the book it's an excellent book. I wrote it myself, so that's why I think it's excellent.
There you go.
It's a really good book. And it's just all of those lessons that if you had an outside advisor to tell you, what should I do right now? That's all in that book. And I really learned it from just telling a bunch of people the same thing over and over and over again. The next book, the most recent book, Alignment, really walks through that planning process. And
right.
found through, our work at SME, there's leaders all over the world, like not just in North America, but in Africa and Asia. Like, we have thousands of readers per day come to us, and they're all looking for the same thing. How do I lead my team? How do I move us forward? How do I become successful as a leader, as a manager? And so the book is really about how to empower your people to be successful and to move the team forward. So it's really about teamwork, really about alignment, getting everybody towards that same place, getting them to Mexico happy.
Nice. And making sure they're all on the same beach.
Absolutely. So really the title is Alignment, How to Get Your People, Strategy, and Culture on the Same Page.
Perfect.
So it's all the aspects of an organization.
I love it. Anthony, let's ask you one last question, then I'm going to let you go.
Okay, cool.
All right. This is a question I ask everybody, and it's probably my favorite question out there. When you leave a room, when you leave a strategy session and you get in your car and you drive away, what's the one thing you want people to think about you when you're not in the room?
Oh, I want them to think about me. Well,
and your company.
Okay. Well, when I leave the room, I want the team to know that they can do it. Okay. So that's not about me. I want them to know that they can, like, what they just talked about is not pie in the sky. Like, it's clear.
Absolutely.
And what I want them to know about me and our company is that we're there to help. Like, really, the reason we give away all of our stuff is that we really want to help people and that we are their strategic partner. So like, it's not if somebody needs us, we're not superheroes, but that we are their partner in their success. And really, like, we're partners together. Because if companies are successful in their strategic plans, well, they'll hire me again and I'll make more money. So win-win, right? Not right?
Absolutely. And you know what? It comes down to trust. It comes down to, relationships, trust, and your customers knowing that, they may not have seen you for 6 months. They may not have seen you for a year, but when they come back to you, they know there's a level of comfort and there's a level of trust, and they know that you're going to help them again. And that's a great thing. And they'll tell that story to other people that they work with, and that's how businesses are built.
Well, I appreciate that on a personal level, that we've known each other for this many years, and that's what you say. I really appreciate that, and it means a lot to me. And it's cool that's what we've been able to develop over the past couple of years. So
you know what? That's what friends do. Congratulations on getting married. Thanks for being on the show. Hang out in the green room for a second. I'm just going to say goodbye to everybody, and I'll be right back.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers.
I want to thank Anthony for being on the show today. You know what? He gave us some really great information, and I really appreciate it. Now, my name's Ben Baker, and 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, what do? I help tell my client's story. I help them understand who they are, what they do, why they do it, who they do it for, and why those people should care. Love to talk to you, love to find out more about your business and how we can help you be better at what you do. But every Wednesday at 10 o'clock Pacific, this is the YourLIVINGBrand.live show. We'll see you next week.